You're different just like we are. Come and join us.
Okay, I've been working like 3 jobs. Probably why I never see ya. Probably why I never have time for the fake friends that won't be ya. Oh God, I've been running now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of LinkedUp on LinkedIn. I couldn't be happier to have my guest, Douglas Atkins, all the way from Tuscany. Welcome to the show, Douglas.
Thanks very much, Ryan. Pleasure to be here.
Those that don't know, Douglas was at the gathering last year, and maybe Dabs, you can roll a bit of those clips from his speech.
Every community has to have a very clear purpose, a reason why it exists. Why should someone join? Why should you run it? What are you here to do? Once you hear this, you'll never forget it. It's a little bit vulgar, I know, but you need to rub your members together until they get sticky.
For those that don't know you, Douglas, I'm a massive fan that hopefully become a friend, but we had you at the gathering, as people just saw on the show here last year. Two things, tell people a bit about you, and how I got to know you was through the book, The Culting of Brands. Tell everyone quickly about the thesis of that book and why it kind of caught fire. And then secondly, tell people how you enjoyed the gathering last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the book, I never intended to write a book, actually. I was just very curious. It all started about 20 years ago, one day in the marketing agency I used to work at in New York. And a bunch of clients came in and they were incredibly depressed because they said, marketing is dead, loyalty is over, all products are the same, you can't get a USP anymore. So, depressed marketers. And then as it happened that night, I went to a focus group where some kids were talking about their favorite brand of sneaker, which happened to be Converse, but it could have been anybody. And exactly the opposite experience. These kids were incredibly passionate about their favorite brand, which at the end of the day is just bits of rubber and plastic, functionally no different from any other sneaker. They all get you from A to B and whatever you need to do. But these people had almost a religious commitment to this brand. And that made me think, first of all, the marketers were wrong. That even in a commodity market where they're all functionally the same, you can have this incredible passion and commitment. And secondly, I thought, maybe I should look at best-in-class cult brands, since this appears to be one. And then I thought, well, why stop there? Why not go and investigate how cults, full-on religious cults, do what they do, create incredible belonging and belief and commitment. And if I could deconstruct that, maybe I could learn some lessons and apply that to some brands. And so over the next couple of years in my free time, I ended up interviewing hundreds and hundreds of members of full-on cults like Krishna.
People were joining left and right. Everywhere people went, there were Hare Krishnas.
All the way through to religions that had just been a cult, like the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Teach me all that I must do to live with Him someday. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God.
Through to sports teams, Trekkies, all these kinds of organizations which exhibited incredibly strong, passionate belonging. And I tried to find out, basically, first of all, why people were so committed to these organizations and how those organizations generated that commitment. Eventually, that all, I managed to kind of deconstruct it all, and that became the book, The Culting of Brands. All of which was it was an unintended but happy consequence, because you never know what happens to your book, who reads it, especially old-style books. This was a book that was, paper and cardboard, published in 2004. So I didn't know who read it and how they thought about it, but you guys read it apparently, and then you started an agency called Cult, to sort of model on it a bit, and also this amazing event that I went to in 2019 called The Gathering, and which was like, to me, was an amazing experience, because it's an incredibly good conference. But it was amazing just to see the outcome from the book. Here you were running this conference of 1,200 people who were passionate believers, basically, in the things that they were doing. And you were running basically a religious meeting.
Yes, totally. It feels like that, and actually, people always leave and feel. They always tell me, I'm like, what do you think? And there's people that are inspired, etc. But most people leave, and the thing that I hear most often is they feel happy. And why they feel happy, I know the reason why is because I studied it and read your book and understand that connection is the most
Yes.
straight line to happiness. When you think of cults, I use the word cult because it's provocative and it's true, and all cults, some cults are bad, most aren't, but the key thing for cults for me, Douglas, and those watching, is people want to belong. I want to belong, you want to belong.
Yeah.
And the word cult just gives people a visceral reaction and gets their attention, but all it really is about belonging. And when it comes to business, you certainly want people to belong to your company. You don't want them just to transact, or in our book Fix we say don't just buy in. And when you've seen, what's your favorite brand that you've seen really pull this off? Obviously I know you helped Airbnb, but what other brands have you seen that have pulled it off and continue to pull it off today?
Well, first of all, you're right about the whole belonging thing. And you know, when I started investigating cults, I also, you know, thought of the cults that you immediately think of, which were very destructive cults, like, you know, Waco and People's Temple and all of that. But as I learned more and more about it and spoke to experts, you realize that all cults are a band of really passionate people who believe in basically a new idea. And so what that means is that every religion, bar none, started off as a cult, including Christianity in the Eastern Mediterranean 2,000 years ago. It was one of several, actually, mystery cults at the time, and it was the one that took off and so forth. But so cults are actually incredibly normal. So that was the first thing I learned. And in fact, people who were in this whole, you know, business, if you like, or academic sphere of sociology of religion, don't call them cults anymore because it's such a loaded term. They call them new religious movements, NRMs.
So what's your favorite? What brands have you felt have got it fantastically right?
Yes, oh well, there's loads, but the ones I really got to know well was the two I really focused on for the book at the time are still cult-like brands, and that's Apple and Harley in particular. And I don't know if they knew anything about religion or cults, but certainly instinctively, Steve Jobs did exactly the right things. You know, he made one of the most important things you need to do to create a cult of any kind, you know, whether it's a religious cult or a brand cult or a political cult or a sports team cult or whatever it is you need to identify your purpose. You know, you need to take a stand that is very different from everyone else. The reason why is that people need to identify with that stand you're taking and passionately, you know, feel like they belong to it. So Apple at the time, you know, like the second coming of Steve Jobs is what I call it. When he came back, the first thing he did to relaunch the company was he ran the ad, Think Different.
The misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers.
Which got very little airtime actually, but is now one of the most famous pieces of communication. And if you look at that ad, there are no computers in it. All he's doing is talking about what Apple stands for, which is passion, creativity, and non-conformity. And it's all about Think Different, and he shows all these people from Picasso to
Einstein.
you know, Michelangelo, yeah, who thought differently and were passionate and non-conformist. He said the world basically is created by people like this. And so, when that ad was running, I was interviewing members of the Apple cult at the time, and they were saying it was like a huge banner wave. And it was like a huge validation moment for them. It was saying, you know, all you people out there who've always felt you were different, that's good. You're different just like we are. Come and join us.
Yeah.
And so that's actually basically how a lot of cults and cult brands work, which is saying, you're different. We're different in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Come in and join us. People are looking for a sense of belonging and a sense of meaning in other places than just religion. We are hardwired to belong as a species. We wouldn't have survived if we hadn't formed tribes.